Alright, hello and welcome to round 3 of the Automobilista Australia Super 2 Championship. Tonight joining me once again is Brendan Ross. How's it going, mate?
Good, how's you going?
Yeah, not too bad, if I don't say so myself. Haven't got a massive grid tonight. Obviously, we are starting a little bit later due to, obviously, had to test both versions of Symmons Plains, which are available in the now released track pack. For those that are competing in both TCR and the Supercar Championships, as well as obviously Super 2 drivers only get the track that's coming up for the next round. But as we weren't sure as with the performance of one of the versions of the track, which does look very, very good, Rossi, but it does have unfortunately, some performance issues, which has forced us to go back to last season's mod.
Yeah, it's a shame because it's just the few laps that I drove it looks like a really good track. Shame it doesn't work, but hopefully something can be worked out for it.
Yeah, just some frame stutters, which obviously is not ideal. Which we did try to rectify by trying different graphic settings and limiting frames, which limiting frames did help a little bit, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough. You still had some small stutters, which obviously when you've got a decent field of cars, it would probably lead to an incident or an off. So we thought we might as well go to the tried and tested circuit. And here we are on last year's circuit. Now we're in qualifying. So the drivers have had an extra 20 minutes to use this circuit. And obviously the format for qualifying here in Super 2, it's pretty much shootout style. One time lap to get it all right. And Turmo, it looks like he'll be the first one, Rossi, to set a lap time, barring mistake.
Yeah, it looks like most drivers are out there, but Termo, he was looking fairly pacey in practice, so hopefully he can get one going for us and start to get his season underway.
Yeah, it was very, very close in practice with, we did have a supercar driver in Phil Boak in the server, the only driver that went under the 51 second mark here at Symmons Plains. Obviously, very short circuit. But aside from that, everybody very, very close. I think everybody was even within a second. So I don't think we'll see too massive a time difference between everybody. And getting the right kind of exit, especially out of that hairpin, is going to be vital.
It's definitely vital. I tried a couple of goes at it in practice with some different goes at it. It's definitely one that you need to just get your top end speed to head into the last few corners.
Well, he's had a decent lap so far. Has shown a little bit of slide coming out of the penultimate corner there. It's cost him a bit of time. 51.6, not the worst, but not the best. And Rhodey, 6 tenths back, 52.3 for him. And I know got Brko just behind Turmo on a 51.8, which is a couple tenths off his personal best from practice. Now we've got Wayne, who isn't actually Wayne, it's actually his son in the car. He was actually second fastest in the session, but unable to match his practice best with a 51.4. And Lai Mitch immediately straight to the top, 51.1, 3 tenths faster than Turmo. Still got 7 minutes left in the session. It is only a 10-minute qualifying session, but these drivers just want to get out there.
Yeah, well, it looks like Nether's heading out there now to a nice clear track. I don't know whether Bohi will come out, but hopefully Nether might get a good lap time in for himself because he's had a relatively easy start to the season, but nothing spectacular.
Yeah, well, I think he sort of didn't set the obviously timing sheets on fire, but he wasn't exactly slow either. And I think with the way the times are at the moment, I think the front row start is on the cards for him if he puts it all together, because the times that we have seen, obviously not much between them. And if he can put it all together, not make a mistake, I can see him just sliding ahead of what Turmo has set there. Was it 51.6, I believe.
And one thing that I think most drivers will hope for, just going back to the TCR round here last season, starting at the back in the reverse grid race, it was an effort to pass some cars, so definitely a front row start would do anybody justice. Looks like Nether's getting his lap underway now anyway.
Yeah, underway. Yeah,
corners.
turn 1 is tricky under braking. Very easy to lock a brake. It's bumpy. You sort of got to move. You want to move to sort of the outside to sort of get that better exit coming out of turn 1 there. Navigated it all right. Heavy braking zone at the hairpin. A little bit of wider turn in for him. 4/10 down in the first sector, but he's tried to set himself up with a nice run out of the hairpin.
Yeah, he's got on the power nice and early.
You can take multiple lines to that hairpin, and all of them sort of end up sort of gaining you and losing time in different sort of areas. So it'll be interesting to see in the races. And he's maintained his gap between himself and Lion Mitch. If he can just sort of maintain that gap once again in the final sector, he'll just nick in front of Turmo. Not too bad through the final couple corners, and he does hold on in the end. So his second and third sectors able to match Lion Mitchell's. Just that first sector where he couldn't find that time. It's still potentially on the front row.
Bolger looking like he was going to set a nice lap there. He was 2/10 faster than Nether in the first sector, but just sort of lost it towards the end of the lap there.
Yeah, just having a look at a replay. He's had a little stutter there. So, don't know why, but that's everybody. I don't know if Phil Boak's actually going to set a lap time. Obviously, he is a main game driver, so we may not see him do it. But we've got Billy Dougal-Salonga has joined the server, so he is eligible. Obviously, prior to the supercar round, obviously Phil Boak and Foley went through obviously the classes of each drivers, and he was put down as Pro B. So he'll be able to set a lap time.
I'm not saying that I'm surprised that he's Pro B, because he's definitely got some pace, but he's definitely one of those borderline drivers. A bit like Turmo there. He's fast enough to be in Pro A, but he's one of the top drivers in Pro B.
Yeah, sort of got those sort of little consistency issues, which I think sort of bring him down a little bit, because he has shown, obviously, even last night, where he was quite pacey, was able to stick with both the PBF drivers. But again, just mistakes in both races. Just to clarify, obviously, what happened in the first race where he double stacked with Mitchell Hathaway, as we now put him on screen. He's entering in the Mega Fuels Jason Bright for Performance Racing FGX Falcon. Yeah, just to clarify what happened last night, if you did happen to catch last night's racing, in the first race, he double stacked with Mitchell Hathaway. Now, that didn't cost either of them time. But as he was in, obviously he read the post that was put out regarding, obviously, pro drivers not being able to use driver aids, and he listened to the driver's briefing, and he didn't have auto clutch turned on. And when he pitted, as he outbrakes himself at the hairpin, what he had auto clutch off and stalled it at the pit stop. So it wasn't so much that he was stuck behind Hathaway. It was just he'd stalled it, and that cost him time, which was a shame, because he would have been a couple spots higher in that first race, but still solid night pace-wise. And then in the second race there, again, he was running, I do believe, in fourth and fifth position, fourth for a while, fifth for a while, trying to chase down his teammate, and ended up cutting the track one too many times. Or ended up getting 2 penalties in the end, a drive-through, and then on the last lap he picked up another penalty, which was a time penalty at the end, which dropped him down to, I think, 12th place in the end.
Yeah, I was just thinking back to last night when I joined for race 2 in the PBF chat. I think they were pretty relieved when he sort of got those 2 penalties, because he was definitely catching up to them.
Yeah, so once again, he's got that pace, and we have seen that with a number of drivers where they do have that really pacey streak, but it's just the little minor details that sort of cost him a bit. It's 8/10 down in the first sector, couldn't quite get around the hairpin. I think he's probably just gone out there in default setup. Obviously, this is his first lap of the circuit, so he hasn't done any practice. He's been having troubles with the mod, but somehow it's able to work for him at this point, and he's out on the circuit having a crack. It's good to see. He's just pulled it up. It would have cost him a bit of time, though. 2.1 seconds down, he will lose a little bit more time. Obviously, outbrake himself just a touch there at the penultimate corner. Over the line, 54.0. With 1 minute remaining, which is, at least he came into the server, because otherwise we would have had pretty much just 5 or 6 minutes where we would have had to have made up some stories just to fill in a bit of time there. But, well, we do have a minute left in qualifying, so I guess that gives us, and all the drivers have set a time, so we might as well bring up, obviously, the circuit we're at, and obviously bring up the format for this evening. So, where we are, Launceston, here in Tasmania, the Apple Isle, circuit length 2.41 kilometres, one of, if not the shortest, I believe, circuit on the AMSOZ Supercar Championship, and indeed the Supercar, Virgin Australia Supercar Championship calendar as well. 7 turns. Tonight the format is 3 races. So when it is the 3 race format, that means the circuit is under 3.1 kilometres long. And the races are 40 kilometres in length. So that means the race is 17 laps long. Now, the way the races are set out, the second race is reverse grid. And then the final and third race is the grid that is set from the finishing order of race 2.
Yes, so we're definitely in for a good night of racing here with the 3 races. And seeing as all the drivers are fairly close, should be some good battle packs going on.
Yeah, so in qualifying, obviously, Mitch did have a 3/10 advantage over Nether in second place. And I do believe this is the first time we've had it's not been an HRT lockout on the front row. Obviously, Brko there in 4th place, but he was only pretty much 2.5 tenths away from the front row. Obviously, time's going to be very, very close here. I don't think a lot of the drivers in qualifying didn't put their best laps together. Lime Mitch is pretty much on par with what he was able to do. But, yeah, certainly Nether, Termo, Brko, Bolger, and certainly Wayne, or his son. We should probably get him to create an account with his own name when he races in future, so they don't mix it up. Well, certainly Wayne, he was sort of looking quite handy in practice as well with the pace he had. So look out for him in race 1. Rhodey, also very, very competitive here. Hopefully he can put a strong run together. And BDS, well, we know he's got pace, but he's done absolutely no practice. So we'll see how he goes as the night wears on.
Yeah, actually, out of all the drivers, I'm impressed with Brody, how close he is. Even though it's a short track, he was up there fairly early on in the timesheet. So hopefully he might have a strong race tonight.
Yes, hopefully he does. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest night last night at Albert Park, but yeah, here he's looking quite comfortable and he's able to mix it with the entire field, which is good to see. Alright, now, as we are in the warm-up, we'll be back in a moment as we just got to conduct the driver's briefing, but we shall be back for race 1 here from Brian Walsh Raceway in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, and welcome back. As you can hear in the background, warm-up is just about to be concluded, but we've got cars out there on the circuit at the moment. Nether currently fastest in the warm-up. We will be ticking over in about a minute's time. And well, what we've seen so far, Rossi, has been some interesting racing, but HRT, particularly Lion Mitch, has dominated the season. But at Albert Park, we saw that gap close down. And even though he had a very strong qualifying compared to everybody else out there, I think tonight we might see our first non-HRT winner. What do you think?
Well, hopefully for the competition in the series, so even though it's early, it's easy for somebody just to run away with the series. I can probably see Nether standing up here tonight and claiming a win, maybe even two tonight.
Yeah, so he was very, very close in that final race at Albert Park. He did try to make a move, but the inside was blocked off, and he sort of hesitated, trying to move to the outside and cause contact between himself and Lion Mitch, and that opened the door for Steve Brko, the other HRT driver, to come in at the penultimate corner on the final lap to take a win. Another currently 51.7 out there, probably got race fuel in it now. And he'll be probably hoping to find a little bit more time, but with the format for this evening, if he can just get a decent run in the reverse grid race, I could certainly see him definitely taking a win. And then obviously the final race is obviously going to be sorted by how obviously he finishes. And we have seen Lion Mitch make some good starts in the reverse grid races, but at Albert Park he didn't quite get through as quickly as what he did in Adelaide. So it will be interesting to see how he goes around here, where the times are certainly a lot closer.
Yeah, we've got more laps tonight to do it, but on a shorter circuit, it's with limited availability for passing. They're definitely going to struggle to find their options.
They certainly are. As we now wait, obviously, for the grid to, obviously, all the drivers to get onto the grid. I do have to make modifications to the track cams on this circuit, and for whatever reason, there's a New Zealand flag here at the Symmons Plains circuit, right there in the middle of your screen. That's right, we are in New Zealand.
Oh, my goodness!
Oh no!
Hey, Gumbo!
They're beached, bro!
Oh no!
Oh well, we've just been done for cultural appropriation, and so well, there goes the stream.
Nothing else that Novi hasn't done.
Anyway, got the formation lap now underway, and once again, a familiar face leading the front end of the field. Lion Mitch for the Holden Racing team will start from pole position. His antagonist from Albert Park will join him on the front row. Nether will start second on the grid. In third place, in the Techno Autosport car, we have Turmo. And in fourth place, Steve Brko, our second race winner at Albert Park. In fifth, we've got Steve Bolger, who has to be said, he doesn't look quite comfortable around here. But still, with the times being so close and what we've seen, what he can do in GT3 cars, he can be quite consistent and doesn't usually make too many big errors. So if there is errors from the front runners, expect him to pick up some spots and possibly nab a podium. And we've also got Wayne, who we've found out, his son is driving, and supposedly I've been informed that he's called Liam. So Liam has missed the start, and we'll have to wait until those lights go green. So hopefully he knows the procedure for that one. Then we have Rhodey. We'll start from 7th, but obviously he'll move up straight away. And then BDS, who joined in the middle of qualifying. And he's probably done a grand total of 4 laps. So we're about to get underway here from Symmons Plains. 1 light, 2 light, 3 lights, 4. And away we go. Looks like a fairly even start from everybody so far. No one's really got a better start than anyone else. Brko had a look up the inside. Couldn't quite get the job done at turn 1. And it's status quo for the first, I think, 4 or 5 cars.
I think Billy got at the best start of them all, but just couldn't make the move into turn run. He was alongside Rody, but yeah, just didn't have the time or space to do it.
Yeah, it's just a very, very short run to turn 1, so you're going to need a rocket start will be placed on the inside, and if you're going to make up a spot or two. Now, another thing, obviously, Symmons Plains is pretty much all straights, aside from the, it's almost like a little triangle kind of circuit. The slipstream is going to be important, so if Nether can just stick in line Mitch's slipstream and give himself every opportunity to obviously stick with him and possibly steal a victory, but at the same time, he's got to watch out because he's punching a mighty fine hole for Turmo to just sneak in and gain, and Brko as well. So the front four, they've broken away. Bolger is just a little ways off the back of Brko, and Bolger also having to contend with Rody. So Rody's had a nice start. In fact, Rody trying to make a move at the hairpin, side by side, but not quite close enough to get it done. And BDS not too far away either.
It looks like Liam has got away from the pit lane, so without any black flags and whatnot. So hopefully he can make a bit of time.
Yeah, so I don't know how experienced he is. I do believe he's actually a little bit of a go-karter from what I hear, but we'll see. He's able to follow the lights. Look at Brko all over the back of Turmo. I have seen a number of drivers that aren't experienced with the light system in Automobilista and R-Factor, and they just go when the race goes and they get DQ'd. As Brko out from underneath the rear wing of Turmo, up the inside at the hairpin, on the grass a little bit there and a bit slidey. Turmo will hold on around the outside, and that's another sort of, with the way that hairpin cambers, you can hold on around the outside, and in fact sometimes it even gives you a better exit.
It does. There's so many different lines for that corner. It was famously known that HRT used to take a different line to most teams back in the day, but it seems that everybody's sort of got a similar line now. But yeah, just the varying differences there can give you some very different results.
Yeah, we certainly have, and well, we've sort of had our field splinter out. We've got Nether Elmid right in the wheel tracks of Lion Mitch, setting the fastest lap. They've dropped Turmo and Brko, who are battling. Then behind them, Bolger's got a little bit of a gap over Rody, but Rody's got BDS right behind him. So Rody parks his car in the middle of the road, trying to make it difficult for BDS. Very, very late on the brakes, and they're both sort of in the barrier there. And it's only 25% damage. It won't affect the car at all. But Rody will hold on. But unfortunately for him and for BDS, it's dropped them off the back of Bolger.
Now, Brko got the move done at the hairpin, but Turmo's fighting back now at the second to last corner, and Brko's just held on there, so he
hasn't given up yet. Turmo's still right there. There is a slight overlap, but Brko just gets it done. In fact, set his personal best on that lap, I should say, 51.775. At 2.6 seconds behind Nether, who's having a look out the inside of Lion Mitch, but I think that's just him trying to find his bearings as opposed to trying making a move. Which, in these supercars in particular, trying to find a braking point, I do often myself just sort of move to the middle of the track just to see where I am. Because if you're right up behind someone, it's quite easy to sort of miss your braking point and end up just smashing out the back of someone.
Going straight through him. Looks like Nether's sort of doing a smart thing. He just sort of, he's
had a good run. He's up the inside and he will take the lead. So he'll be classified as, he would have led one lap, but he's backed out of it. He's going to hold on for now. Perhaps he's just playing a smart game here and he's just going to bide his time. Almost like NASCAR style, where you just want to bide your time, use the slipstream and get past right at the end of the race as opposed to leading and allowing, obviously, Lion Mitch to get back past straight away, or perhaps even battle for a little bit and allow Brko and Turmo to close up. So perhaps just a little bit of smarts being played. Just up the back there, got Bolger off the road, and they're 3 wide out of the hairpin. Now what's happened here? We're going to cut back to a replay. So Bolger was off at the hairpin. Rody had caught him. BDS not too far away. So what has happened at the hairpin? It's a big hit. So Rody's just outbroke himself and smacked right into the back of Steve Bolger. And Bolger angrily flat out all over the grass, getting ahead of him. Looks like Rhodey slowing down to redress that position. That moves BDS up into P5. And Turmo sticking with Brko, but Brko doing his best to try and close the gap between himself and Nether Realm. Gap now 2.1, in fact 1.7 seconds, so third and fourth place now. Starting to close as, just as I say that, Turmo goes around. Too much gas on the throttle, too much gas and too much steering lock. Around he goes and, well, that's his race done and dusted. He's got 10 laps to close up on the back of Rhodey, and the lap times those guys are going out, I don't think he's going to be able to close that down.
Yeah, well, Turmo just set the fastest lap, and he looks like he was just starting to get back to the back of Brko there, but sadly just, spun it around.
Brko now, fastest lap of the race, 51.3 dead, and he's still 1.7 seconds away from NetherRealmian. And, well, you can hear the Imperial March theme from Star Wars starting to play, because the dark side here is coming, and we could see another HRT 1-2, but hopefully flies the flag and is able to take the fight to the dark side, and hopefully for our sake and the championship, and for his sake too, can make a real fight of it and possibly steal a win here.
I think Nether may be regretting his decision to not keep ahead of Mitchell. He sort of lost a little bit of ground, but I had a look back at the replay and I thought there may have been contact and it might have been a redress, but there was no contact, so you could be right on the thing where he's just holding on for later in the race.
Yeah, perhaps he's just conservative going into turn one. Obviously, turn one there, very, very bumpy, and if you're not on the right line there while you're under brakes, you can obviously spear off the track. Obviously, we did just see Line Mitch make a mistake into turn one and locked up, and that's allowed Nether right back onto his rear bumper. And Brko also right there as well. 1.4 seconds separating second and third. BDS at 9 seconds adrift. He's got Bolger 7/10 adrift. And in fact, Rhodey looks like he might have Turmo for company as well, looking at the timing sheets as well.
Yeah, so looks like BDS may have started getting his groove in this race, so we might see a bit more from him in race 2 and 3. And make it a bit more of a four-car battle for the top place.
Hopefully it'd be good to see. It's obviously good to see just not another Holden in the field. Not that I'm a Ford man or anything like that, even though all the cars of, well, except for I think the first two races I did here, pretty much all been in Fords or a Nissan in the Supercar Championship. I'm not actually a Ford fan by any stretch of the imagination. I just like driving something different. But in Super 2, there's not one Nissan has been selected, and tonight there was only two Fords in the field, but BDS joining very, very late has evened the odds up just a little bit.
It's good to see the varying differences. The Nissan's a nice car to look at, so it's disappointing, but you can understand why people aren't selecting it either.
Yeah, obviously not in use anymore, and I've got to say, up until pretty much the cash, was a mistake for Line Mitch, and Brko fastest lap of the race. And of all the Super 2 runners of the weekend as well. But yeah, big lock-up. That's allowed Nether once again to close right in. He had started to drop Nether just a little bit. But once again, another mistake at turn 1. Nether right on his tail.
He caught that by the end of his teeth there, because he was so close to going into the sand trap there.
Yeah, so what Nether's got to do here, he's got to put together decent, obviously middle and final sector. He was able to do that in qualifying. He was able to match Line Mitch. It was just the first sector where obviously Line Mitch blew him out of the water. And it seems in the race it's the opposite. Line Mitch keeps making mistakes up at turn 1, and Nether just not able to stick with him at sectors 2 and 3. And once again, Line Mitch a little bit wide. He seems to carry too much speed. And again, Nether as close as he's been probably since he passed him.
Yeah, we got a nice run through that last section of corner to get right at the back of him there, so he's definitely going to be on probably towards the end of the back straight.
Yeah, just looking at the back now. They take slightly different lines at the hairpin. I reckon at this stage of the race it might be an idea for Nether just to try a slightly different line, perhaps a later turn in, and try and use a little bit more of the camber, and have a straighter exit to have a better run and top speed here into the penultimate corner here. because that's where he does seem to lose just a little bit of time. He's sliding just a little bit, and he's just hanging on there at the moment. 51.6 for Lime Mitch. Not ideal, but this time he's got turn 1 right, and he'll be looking to put a bit of time on Nether on this lap. Brko hasn't had a good couple laps. He's actually dropped a bit of time to our front 2 runners, but he is still in touching distance should they start to battle further down the field. Bolger has got by BDS, but BDS not giving up on 4th position just yet.
No, and I can imagine a strong conversation battle here between Termo and Rhodey as they start to battle each other. They'll be sparring a few words between them in the chat.
Well, there's Termo standing it up the inside, very, very late on the brakes, but Rhodey himself was also very, very late on the brakes. Termo gets the job done, so he has caught Rhodey, and he's actually 4.5 seconds behind BDS and Bolger, so 4 laps to go. If he can put some really good laps together, he might catch them, but he'll need a bit of assistance with those guys battling in front. As Rhodey has a look up the inside at the penultimate corner. Termo gives him just a little bit of space. Might have even been a little bit of contact there, but Termo holds on for now. As Rhodey, just too much gas, and I thought he was going to end up on the wall on the inside. He's able to hold it. He's still within striking distance, but I don't think his rear tyres would like that too much.
No, and it looks like just going back to the front line, Mitch has pulled out that gap now ahead of Nether, so it seems that Nether's tyres might just be going off here.
Yeah, just a point of note, obviously, with the track pack that has come out, track temperatures have been altered. Obviously, the default temperatures for a lot of the circuits were just set to at default settings, which normally means there'd be 26 degrees air temperature, and the track would be looking at 29 or 30 plus degrees. Now, at Tasmania in April and May, generally that's not the case. So, obviously, that's been touched up, looking at more realistic temperatures, and I reckon drivers, I did hear in practice actually, none of the drivers actually not getting their tyres quite up to temperature, so that's something to look out for and something they may have to modify for race 2.
Yeah, I noticed that a little bit in the practice that I did. It was just something slightly off, just driving around the circuit compared to last season. So.
Oh, we've got Lime Mitch out. Lime Mitch is out. What has happened?
What has he done?
So he started slowing. Perhaps a PC problem or a wheel problem or something. Or perhaps something outside, obviously, in real life has forced him to retire. But obviously slowing down. I heard his engine was still going and everything like that. So I don't think it was an engine. It's Lime Mitch out of the race. And that's opened things right up. Obviously, Nether actually 2.1 seconds in front of Brko, so we are looking at a different winner, a non-HRT winner, if Nether can hold on for pretty much the next lap and 1/3.
Well, that's a shame for Lime Mitch. I dare say he's probably got caught up with something, unless it comes up with fuel. We might have a fuel issue, he might have ran out of fuel.
I did still hear an engine, so normally when you run out of fuel, you sort of, the car just switches off, so I'm not sure if it was fuel. I'm thinking it might be something outside the sim, and perhaps he has to go somewhere or something's happened and he's just pulled over. So a little bit further back now, final spot on the podium, up for grabs, BDS and Bolger duking it out. Obviously BDS tried to make a move at the hairpin, we just caught the end of. Couldn't quite get the move done, but now all over the back of Bolger, a little bit of slide out of turn 1. Once again, out of turn 2 and 3. Now the run to the hairpin. Boulder's going to have to go defensive, as he does. And BDS is going to have to go around the outside, which he can do, but he's sort of lost the rears under braking. Somehow pulls it up. I thought he was going to spear into the side. A Bolger there. He's going to hold it around the outside. Because of the camber of the corner, will get the job done. So nice move from BDS around the outside of the hairpin, which you don't see all that often.
Now, I just quickly messaged Lime Mitch to ask what happened, and he did say he ran out of fuel. So he just said reset fuel per lap when we reset service, so he miscalculated what the fuel he needed was.
Well, we did miss it, unfortunately, as we're watching the battle between obviously BDS and Bolger come down to the final lap. But Nether has claimed his first win. That's Automobilista Australia. So well done for the Tickford racing driver. Obviously so close at Albert Park. He's had some decent pace in TCR, but now he's finally claimed his first win. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it as he crossed the line on the stream, so I do apologise for that when you do watch it back, Nether. But well done on your first victory. Steve Brko will take P2, and with Lime Mitch, with that DNF, that I think will move him down to 3rd or 4th in the championship, with both Nether and Brko
Wow.
probably moving up in front of him. Obviously, I don't have them on hand, unfortunately, but we should have the standings after tonight, with during the weekend sometime, with Brenton Foley sorting the points out. BDS taking 3rd place on the final lap due to obviously Lime Mitch's retirement, and then a ding-dong battle with Steve Bolger in the end, and coming out victorious. Got Turmo ending up in 5th place. He would probably be a little bit disappointed because he was in that little battle pack there, with Bolger and BDS, so he could have been in line for a podium as well, and his fastest lap was 3/10 faster than both BDS and Bolger as well. But he went around at the hairpin, and now he's driving backwards around the circuit, and does the old J-turn into the pits. Liam obviously started from the pits, it says Wayne on screen, but that is his son Liam driving. Started from the pits, finished only 27 seconds off the eventual race winner, so not a bad effort from Liam in his first race at Automobilista Australia in the Super 2 Series, and he finished a 10th in front of Rhodey. So you did see Rhodey having a little bit of an incident there towards the end of the race with Bolger, and there must have been another one because he wasn't too far away from Bolger after that incident. So he sort of fell away a bit, but certainly encouraging signs for Rhodey. But I think very encouraging signs not only for the championship, but a number of drivers were able to stick with Lime Mitch. And then obviously we had BDS, as the more laps he did, was able to find a bit of time as well.
Yes, a lot of drivers here are going to get a lot of confidence heading into race 2, especially now that they know they've got the pace of Lime Mitch. All they need to do is just get ahead early enough, and they might be able to replicate what Lime Mitch was doing in that race and just sort of pull a gap ahead of everyone early in the race.
Yeah, certainly. And obviously, I think the big thing, obviously, whoever does this being a reverse grid race, obviously, it's going to be key getting through the field quickly. Obviously, it's not a very big grid tonight with only 8 drivers, but importantly, Lime Mitch will start at the back anyway because he DNF'd. So to be eligible in all these events, in these reverse grid races that are hosted by myself, so Super 2 and in TCR, if you DNF, you're not eligible. If you finish, even if you're a lap or 2 down, you are eligible for the reverse grid. So even though there's only a couple laps to go for Lime Mitch, he'll still have to start from the very back of the field, and Nether will be a position in front. So that's something to remind yourself at the start of the race. But the key is going to be getting through the field early, and then if you can, have a little bit of a gap, because that slipstream around this circuit is key.
Yes, and with our limited passing opportunities, drivers are definitely going to want to get ahead early.
Yeah, they certainly are. Even though, obviously, the circuit, you think pretty much turn 1 you can pass at the hairpin, and then even at the penultimate corner, you can pass, but it's still difficult to set up a move, and it is difficult to pass, even though they all are really passing places. It's just the way the circuit sort of lends itself. It's difficult to set up a move, and it's very easy to defend in those places because the corner after them is one side of the track. There's no flip-flops where you could sort of hang around the outside and at the first part of the chicane or whatever, and then get it, and then have the inside for the next part. So that makes it difficult, but certainly it's going to be a very enthralling race, and finally a non-HRT winner.
Yes, so we've definitely got some exciting racings coming up in race 2 and 3.
We certainly do. We'll be taking a short break, but we will be back in probably about 5 minutes' time for probably about 5 minutes of the warm-up, and then race 2, the reverse grid race here from Brian Walsh Raceway. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, and welcome back. Apologies, I had a couple minor hiccups there. Unfortunately, Rossi losing power for a split second, so that meant obviously Rossi was obviously dropped out. We couldn't hear him, and at the same time, because he hosts the server for Super 2, he lost the server. So server's back up. We'll be just moments away from obviously setting the grid, and then probably 5 or so minutes in the warm-up for race 2. So just a reminder, race 2 coming up, probably about 5 minutes time, and it is the reverse grid race where we will see, pretty sure to be Rody once again leading us away from pole position, and it will be Liam joining him alongside him. See, they won't separate by much at the end, but Liam, don't forget, started from the pit lane, which around this circuit and without pit stops, you're never going to get that time back.
No, and without a safety car and a couple of pit stops, you're definitely not going to make that time back up.
Unless, of course, you're some kind of alien and lapping in the 45s. But you'd have to be driving a Formula 3 or a Formula 1 car or something to call that time back around here. Certainly a different class of car. Or just hope everybody in front of you just has a spin and you come through Stephen Bradbury style. But even then, 20 seconds around Brian Walsh Raceway, I should say, is a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to make up in a short amount of time. So, yeah, virtually impossible.
Yeah, you got 3 real braking zones, 3 real corners, or probably 4 corners that you sort of have to worry about. You do sort of have to worry about the little kink right towards the hairpin out of turn 1 a little bit. And, the final 2 corners, even though it says they're 2 corners, they're pretty much sort of a double apex kind of corner. So you sort of take them sort of as one corner kind of thing. Still waiting on, I think it is, there is somebody that hasn't rejoined the server just yet. We should have 8 runners. Steve Bolger is there. Steve Brko. No,
Right.
Brko is there. BDS is there. But
Line Mitch.
Yeah, Line Mitch. So hopefully he can jump back in. He's in Discord. Even so, got 3 minutes to go.
There he is. Yeah, so the line Mitch has just joined now, so we can set the grid.
Yeah, so we will cut short, obviously, this warm-up session due to, obviously, that error.
Oops.
So, sorry for the drivers that did want to go out there and do some, a little bit more practice and running around, but, see, we did start a little bit late as well. But, that last race there, certainly mixing up the order in the championship. Obviously, Line Mitch would have been, I wouldn't say comfortably ahead, because Brko finished second to him in all but one race. And obviously that one race prior to that other one, it was a win for Brko, but Line Mitch did finish second in that one. That was due to obviously contact between Nether and Line Mitch, which allowed Brko to go through. So it wasn't too big of a loss for Line Mitch, but that DNF will certainly hurt him a lot in the standings, especially if Nether or Bolger don't have a retirement for the rest of the season. So if they just stick with it, even if they have a bad night and with low damage settings, you'd think, unless you blow an engine by downshifting too hard, you should probably finish every race, and that might make it a bit difficult for Line Mitch to claw those lost points back.
Yeah, so all they need to do is just stay consistent for the rest of this series, and yeah, like you said, they should be in for a shoe-in. But then again, if Line Mitch gets a few more wins up his sleeve, he could make a bit of a fight back.
Well, wouldn't put it past him. He has been the form man in the series. I do believe he's taken a pole position in every race or in every round so far. Let's see, minute and a half away from his server ticking over. None of the drivers have taken to the circuit, which is a bit boring of them. I know a couple of them do listen to streams while they do race. I do believe Rody is one of those guys, and I think Termo has done it from time to time as well, where they're listening to the broadcast regardless of what series they're in while they're racing.
something I used to do back in the original Rookie Cup days, but haven't done it in a while as it gets distracting. But definitely a lot of fun out there if you sort of listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, there would be times where I have done it in the past, but that was mainly just in qualifying. I found that having my browser up, and especially YouTube, I'd actually get a little bit of lag and have some FPS drops every now and again. So I'd only limit it to qualifying just to sort of see what other times people are doing, and just to see also where people are out on the circuit.
No, I specifically remember one round in the original Rookie Cup. I was vying for my first win, and all I could hear was yourself, Scruff, Brock Williams, and I think Jamie Snow, all saying things that I should do to pass Matt Devine. But by the time I'd listen, it was already a lap away from that point anyway.
I'm trying to think what cars that would have been. That would have been
The Lancers.
Yeah, the Lancers, and I think it would have been Silverstone. I remember something going on there at Silverstone back in the day. So I'd have to go back. I'm trying to think what channel that was on. That might have been,
I think it was on Brock's.
Yeah, on Brock's channel for a while, and then it was on there is an Automobilista Australia YouTube page, but I've decided, obviously, because I'm doing all this stuff, I might as well just put it on my channel anyway. That saves me from changing all these settings on OBS. Anyway, here we are. It's ticked over to the race session. Looks like everybody is in order on the grid, which is good to see. And now we're just 45 seconds away until the drivers get away for the formation lap.
Yeah, so we're going to be in for a good race here. I can probably see Turmo getting out to an early lead here, with him starting as high as he is. But other than that, I wonder how Nether's going to go passing some of these guys.
Yeah, now, Nether is one of the hardest people to get past, albeit it looks like, obviously, in race 1 there, where he sort of, I don't know if he's letting Lion Mitch go, or if he's just really conservative into turn 1, but he did sort of back out of a move. But generally, he is the most difficult man to pass from what we've seen, both in TCR and here in Super 2, as Rody gets us underway. But can he get the moves done that he has to move up the field? Obviously, Brko is going to be just in front of him up the road, and Rody very, very aggressive away, almost like a race start on this formation lap and running off the circuit. So he's quite eager to get going. But well, Rossi, why don't you run us through the reverse grid for us here in race 2?
Easy. So we've got Rodney here in the Xbox car heading up in pole. Then we've got Wayne's son Liam in the Monster Energy FGX Falcon. In third, we've got Turmo, who I probably have as a hot tip that might win this race in the Techno car. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a lag.
Yeah, a lot of lag out there. There's a bit of warping. Hopefully that sort of stops and the race gets underway.
Yeah, so then we've got Steve Bolger in fourth in the other Techno car. BDS in fifth. He might have a good showing here too, being as high as he is. Steve Berko in the number 2 HRT car. Nether Alien, our race 1 winner, in seventh. And Lime Mitch, who sadly DNF'd with a fuel issue in race 1.
But he's no stranger to starting last in a reverse grid race anyway, so
no.
It's just the points that will hurt him. Now, we did see in race 1 that, as I do try and find an appropriate camera, is Rodney, as he's affectionately known now, cannot find his grid slot. Now, we did see in race 1 that everybody pretty much had even starts. So it will be interesting if that continues here in race 2. Anyway, 4 lights illuminated, and it is now green. Away we go, and once again, looks like everybody got a fairly even start. But Brko's having a look up the inside, and we've got Liam having a look up the inside for the lead as well. Brko on the grass, around the outside goes Nether around him. Nether up the inside of BDS as well, but he will be on the outside. They're going to go 3 wide down the back there, but at the moment, Rodney in the lead. Liam going defensive. That looks like Yeah, Nether up to P6, and it's 2 HRTs at the back. In fact, Nether now up to P5, but he's side by side with Turmo. So Turmo hasn't had an ideal start. He's down 3 spots, and Nether now having a look at the back of the fellow Tickford racing car of BDS.
Yeah, I was just watching Turmo there, and I must have given him a curse because he didn't get the greatest.
Very, very late on the brakes. A little bit of contact. They're going to go side by side. BDS holding around the outside. Nether holding around the inside. Neither of them conceding any ground. BDS holding on for now. That's a little bit of a twinge under braking. And contact between Turmo and Nether. Nether able to hold on. That's bought Turmo. And now the 2 HRT cars. Line Mitch around the outside. Now the inside is able to get by Turmo. So that's once another spot loss for Turmo. Now he's got Brko to contend with.
Yeah, it looked like just going back to the front, Liam was having a little bit of a dive on
we've got Turmo in the wall at the back, but sorry, continue.
Yeah, well, Brody just held on, so he's quite surprisingly he's put on a little bit of a lead with Liam ahead of now BDS. So if they can keep this going, they could be on for a really good result.
BDS around the outside, a penultimate corner of Bolger. He did it at the hairpin at the end of race 1, and now one corner later, one race later, around the outside at the penultimate corner. BDS looking in good nick at the moment. Rhodey's done a really, really good job. He's held on for 2 laps. 53.3 for him. The BDS 52.2, I believe, the fastest lap of the race. So Rhodey's done a good job so far. Certainly the best job actually we've seen, I think, in a long time in a reverse grid race, regardless of TCR or Super 2. But he's outbroke himself at the hairpin. Liam's now in the lead, and BDS is going to have a look, but not quite close enough. He lost all that momentum, and now I've got a massive slipstream chain with Rhodey in a little bit of slipstream. Then BDS got Bolger's got Nether right behind him, and Lime Mitch is also on the charge. And Nether very, very late on the brakes, off into the grass. That's going to allow, certainly, yes, it has allowed both the HRT cars to get by, so disaster, and Turmo also going to have a look as well. Lime Mitch, fastest lap of the race. First man in the 51s here in race 2. Liam in the lead just, and we've got Rodney still holding on to P2, but BDS looking very, very racy.
Yeah, well, it looks like he's having a dive now into the hairpin. He's alongside him. But Rodney's holding his own here. But yeah, Rodney's lost out here, and BDS moves up to second.
If you can just find that pace that he had in practice, it'll hold him in good stead. But he's still doing a good job, is Rodney. But just not quite having that ultimate pace and just making these little micro errors. He did go deep. I thought he was going to spear into the back of BDS, but is able to pull it up. I think his best chance now, if he can just stick with BDS for a while, as Wayne, fastest lap of the race, 51.6. If he can stick with BDS for a while, and he hopes that Bolger in behind is able just to hold up the HRT crew, he might find himself in a good position later on in the race.
Well, I do believe Rodney was faster than Bolger in the practice session, so yeah, if he can sort of just follow the line. Oh, but he's hit BDS, and BDS is around. Well, half around.
Yeah, and BDS in the background, they're just sliding back onto the circuit now. They're side by side. Bolger's going around the outside of Rhodey, and I think the HRT car is probably going to get him as well. They're certainly going to have a look, but in fact, no, Rhodey's got up to pace again. He's going to have a look up the inside, and he's done it. He's pulled it up, and he's moved his way back up to second place.
He's chucking it up there.
He's having a crack, which is great to see, but he's outbroke himself a little bit. Wayne, another fastest lap. Well, Liam, we should say. So Liam doing a very good job at the moment, and with Rhodey holding everybody up, as Rhodey wide at turn 1 again, it's able to build, I reckon it's almost an insurmountable lead. 4 seconds with 11 laps to go. I don't think that's catchable if he doesn't make a mistake. So we could see Liam grab a win here.
Yes, well, especially with all this bumping and grinding with these 7 cars.
It is reminiscent of NASCAR out here. It is just absolute bonkers. Side by side, racing all throughout the circuit. And no one giving it inch. It's a late move from Lime Mitch up the inside. Both a little bit of a slide and lock up. And Rhodey's on the curb. He's gone around. He's unfortunately Brko nowhere to go. And with that going on as well, that's allowed Turmo to close up onto the back of Nether, who's sort of slowed down. BDS trying to go around the outside of turn 1 and almost into the back of Nether. And he's still close enough to hold on around the outside at turn 1 and 2. And he's going to have a run and, again, have another crack at getting by Turmo. But that was oh so close to, well, more disaster. 2 corners in a row there.
Well, that has just set this off. Looks, where's Lime Mitch here? He has sort of put on a little bit of gap now ahead of Nether, so if he can get past Bolger here, he might be able to pull in that little bit of a lead from Liam here.
Yeah, but Bolger not making it easy. And another lap. I reckon Lime Mitch has got to get him in the next lap and a half, because if he doesn't, we'll see Nether right behind Lime Mitch as well. Wayne/Liam will not be caught. 7.1 seconds, 9 laps to go. If he does not have a spin, he will win this race. That gap is not going to be caught unless we see drivers probably into the 49s realistically, which is not going to happen. So that gap, 7.3 seconds. He did what he had to do. So he didn't have an idea. Oh, has he got Turmo off in the background? He had a spin there in race 1, and he's done it again in race 2. And that's allowed Rhodey back ahead. Rhodey's dropped down to 7th now after, obviously, that incident where he lost it, dropping the outside tyres on the curb at the penultimate corner. And Wayne, another fastest lap of the race, 51.3. And his nearest challenger, Bolger, BDS now fastest lap of the race. Lime Mitch, a very, very late opportunity into the first corner, not quite close enough. And he's sensed that he's had to be a little bit more urgent, because right behind him, a hard-charging BDS and Nether.
And BDS was right on the outside there at turn 3.
He's making a move. Hopefully he doesn't spear into the back. And he's actually going to make a move. He's going to get 2 into 1. Sort of squeezes Lime Mitch on the outside. It was a late braking manoeuvre. And sort of, I guess he used Lime Mitch as a brake. But he's had a poor exit. BDS to the back of the queue. Up to the front of the queue. Nether might end up being the next one in line to try and get past Bolger, as he's side by side with Lime Mitch into the penultimate corner. Can he pull it up? He can, but Lime Mitch a better exit, but he's had BDS on his inside, and there was initial contact. He was going to go around, but the second bit of contact saved Nether from having a spin, so he would have been frustrated from the initial contact, but thankful for the second.
And Nether's just binned it at turn 1 there, just got a little bit wide into the sandpit, so he's going to be even more frustrated now.
Yeah, I think the best thing he can do now is just remain smooth, because if Bolger keeps doing what he's doing and just be a massive pest and roadblock for Lime Mitch, he will get back in on that battle pack. And realistically, the win is, it's off the table for these guys at the moment.
Has to be now.
Almost 10 seconds. So these guys, realistically, they're battling for second place. It is still obtainable for Nether. He's going to need a little bit of luck with Bolger to continue putting up massive stonewall defence, and he's got BDS there off the penultimate corner as well. So he needs obviously these two, second and third, to continue battling it out and bring him back into play. Because 4 seconds, 3.9 seconds, so he did gain a couple tenths there. It is catchable, and we could see that big train once again in action.
I'm going to say here, Steve Brko is a little bit like Steve Bolger, sorry. He's a little bit like Nether. He's a very hard driver to pass. I know from racing him in a couple of different series, he's one of those drivers that you want to get past him quick, otherwise you're going to be stuck behind him for a while, because he is fast once he gets in his groove.
Well, we did see, obviously, Lime Mitch behind him. He was the runaway championship leader. It was looking good in race 1 before obviously running out of fuel. But he has given him absolutely nothing so far, and has made Lime Mitch work. He's had an okay exit, has Lime Mitch, but he's not going to be quite close enough for turn 1. In fact, Bolger going, all over the place there. There's a little bit of overlap now, and Mitch will have the run, and he does make his way up into P2, but I reckon we might see Bolger just send it up the inside once again here at the hairpin.
Yeah, he just got crossed up through the first few sections of the corners there, which opened it up for Lime Mitch. But Lime Mitch threw everything at him, and he's finally got past him now, 10 laps into their battle.
Well, I think the opportunity, like he's going to have to put together a really, really good lap here is Bolger, just to stick with Lion Mitch and give himself another opportunity. I thought he had a decent run out of the hairpin, but obviously didn't quite have the traction that Lion Mitch had because he has lost time. And I think now he's going to be a little bit more worried about what's coming in the mirrors as opposed to the man that's just passed him.
So we knew the start of this race that BDS was fast charging, so no doubt BDS is going to get probably right on the back of him here at the end of this lap, and Nether won't be too far behind. So if Bolger can hold his own here, that'll be a good third place result for him in this series.
It certainly would be. So it looks like we're going to see 3 different winners in a row, with Steve Brko taking the final race at Albert Park, Nether taking the first race this evening, and Liam / Wayne in the lead in this one. As we're talking about, he's off at turn 1. He will retain the lead. We're talking him up with 3 laps to go. This is still saying he should win this race, so the old commentator's curse strikes, but he is still in the lead. He still has a comfortable lead as Brko, and down his 6th place fastest lap of the race. He'll be a little bit frustrated. He's not had a better run this evening, but he obviously did have that little bit of bad luck where Rhodey went around, and poor old Brko nowhere to go. But the final spot on the podium still up for grabs. Steve Bolger has been a difficult man to pass, and it's not going to make it easy for BDS or Nether, who, well, has to be said, they've had a roller coaster race too.
And it looks like Nether might be setting BDS up here at the second last corner. Goes a little bit deep.
Oh, big slide for BDS, and that's allowed Nether just to close the gap, and I thought there might be a little bit nudged. I think Nether just understeering out of the way. BDS right behind Bolger. Had the better run through turn 1 and 2, sort of had to get out of it just a little bit, but he will have the slipstream. It looks like he has got that slightly better exit. Bolger will have to go defensive. He's parked it in the middle of the road. No, moves over. BDS going to have to go around the outside. We did see this happen in race 1, and BDS went around the outside. He's going to try it again. And does he have the better exit? Not quite. It's about even, but BDS is right there, right under the rear wing of the Techno Autosports car.
Yeah, well, Bolger's just going to park it on the inside here and just make life difficult for BDS, but BDS has gone very deep.
He has. Oh, and he's sort of turned in on Bolger there. Bolger almost went around, but he's held onto it. And it looks like, I think BDS sort of, I don't know if he was, had an incident of his own, a little half spin of his own there, or if he was actually sort of lifting. But Bolger just holding on to P4 now as he comes under attack from now. We'll just have a look at that in a moment. Just after the hairpin, we will see what happened there. It looks like Bolger actually slowing down now.
Yeah, a lot.
So perhaps he's got a potential issue. Perhaps a fuel issue. So we'll just have a look at that again on replay. And we'll have a look at it from Nether's point of view. And here we go. And yeah, I think BDS just turned in on him here. BDS running wide. And Nether trying to pick his way through, but couldn't quite get the job done. And Bolger did hold on for a moment, but yeah, slowed down into the hairpin. Back live though, and Nether in P4 is 1.5 seconds away from BDS. Bolger now actually behind Brko. A 58.8 for Bolger on that last lap. Now we'll get on board with him and see if he's got any kind of issue, see if he's fuel saving, because yeah, he did lose a lot of time on that last lap.
He's plucking 60, so I dare say he's fuel saving.
And I reckon he pulled the clutch in there as well. I don't think he's got enough fuel in that thing, and he's trying to save as much as he can to get to the end. But anyway, we'll cut to the front because Liam will take victory here in the reverse grid race. He was one of the fastest in practice, the fastest in race 2. And Wayne / Liam takes the victory with Lime Mitch in second place after a hard-fought battle with Steve Bolger. BDS will take it has to be said, a little bit of a controversial third place, but he gets the job done in front of Nether. They had a rip snorter of a battle all race long. And Brko taking P5 in the end. Not ideal for his Super 2 championship hopes, but still points nonetheless. And then we have Steve Bolger eventually finishing in P6 due to the fuel issue. So big shame for him, because it would have been a really solid result for him. Even a P4 for him would have been a really nice result. Rody in P7. So he did really, really well early on in that race, but I think he just overdid it, Rossi, when he was sort of battling those other cars there in the midpoint of that race. And obviously that one big mistake led to, unfortunately, both he and Brko obviously dropping to the back end of the field.
Yeah, I think he just got caught out of his groove once he sort of started to fall back through the into the big battle packs there, and just sort of went a little bit away from what he was doing at the start there, and that's where the little errors start to creep in, and a lot of people's driving there, and they just get a little bit flustered, and Rody just sort of stepped out there and got a little bit of contact where he probably wish he thought a little bit about it.
Yeah, just running wide on that exit curb, and he went around as he got Termo. Obviously, Termo the last of the finishers, but Nether pushing Liam back to the pit, so Liam must be out of fuel. So, once again, another winner, and actually we've got Lime Mitch, who will not contest the final race, as we see in Discord, so he has to go, so we will be down to 7 runners. And that means BDS will be moved up to second place on the grid. Nether will move up to third. Obviously, Brko into fourth place. Bolger into fifth. Rody into sixth. And Termo up to seventh place for the final race of the evening.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting now with all the drivers finishing where they started. They're basically kicking off from where they left off, with the gap's a lot closer now.
Yeah, so the big question is going to be, can Wayne slash Liam, can he obviously put in a solid first couple of laps and build that lead up? Because this time he will have cars to contend with, and he'll be punching a hole for others to sit behind and obviously find time and speed down the straights.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. He did get away to a good start last round, so last race. So hopefully for his sake, he can also replicate that again and pull out an early lead, because it looks like BDS has started to find a bit of pace at Tasmania now, and he could be on for a race win in race 2.
Certainly could. But what I'm hoping to see is our man Rody. Hopefully he can put together a complete race, and we can see him. I'd like to see him in fourth or fifth place, because what he did in the opening stanza of race 2 there was really, really good driving. But as you said, he just got ahead of himself just a little bit too much, and bit off a little bit more than he can chew. And unfortunately, obviously, those errors dropping him down to the back. But what he did in the start was he led the first 2 or 3 laps of the race, was in second for a few more laps, and didn't make it easy for the much faster guys behind him as well. So hopefully he can pick up a top 5. That'd be a really good result for him, and certainly his just rewards for, well, what has to be said, some handy pace around here.
Yeah, so I think he'd be a little bit disappointed of what he was doing, but I can see him coming out for a good strong race through here. He's probably learning a little bit on the go now of what he should be doing, because he's got the pace around some of the guys around him. So we could see him get up to 4th and 5th, like you said.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Well, we will allow this warm-up to continue all the way through. The grid is almost set. I think we're missing one driver there.
I'm trying to work out.
Yeah, Termo, Rody's saying, hasn't been set on the grid. So, yeah, there is Termo. It needs to be set for P7, because he did finish at the back of the field. Obviously, another one of the drivers that were caught up. Well, not caught up, but he had another little off at the hairpin. It seems to be his sort of bogey corner, because in race 1 he had to gas it up a little bit too much, and around he went, and he did it once again when he was at the back of that little battle pack that was raging in the mid part of that race as well.
Yeah, I thought we'd see a little bit more from him, but obviously just getting caught up in those incidences took it away from him. But he hasn't had the best start to this series, so he'd be wishing come next round he can come out full guns blazing and catch up.
Yeah, he certainly hasn't. Even the Supercar Championship as well has been quite subdued. And even all series, it has to be said, is a little bit subdued so far. Obviously, last season and last year, he's certainly on the up and up. But yeah, start of this year, it sort of hasn't had the most ideal start. Perhaps it's more a factor, I think, maybe just the competition just improving while he's sort of stagnated just a little bit. And with all those other drivers obviously improving as much as they have, sort of moved him a little bit further down the pack just a little bit.
Yeah, tend to forget though, he did get a win in the TCRs in the first round out, so he hasn't initially lost a lot of pace, but a lot of the field in AMSOZ has increased in their competition, which is good to see.
Yeah, certainly is good to see. Had quite a number of different winners in the series that we've ran. Well, aside from the supercars, but certainly Super 2, we've seen some new winners. See, TCR in round 1 was fantastic, where we had 3 different winners, and certainly can't wait actually for the second round of that coming up shortly as well, because obviously the new physics have certainly thrown up a little bit of a curveball for a number of the drivers, and has provided some really good racing so far.
Yeah, well, I know between a few of us in the TCR series, we definitely got caught out with the physics change. I had a little drive a couple of weeks before it was the first round, and it felt fine. But come that first round, everything was off to me, and we sort of started to find a little bit of a setup touch that could work heading into this second round. So the competition for that series is good this year, as it's sort of been a bit one-sided the last couple of seasons, but it's good to see the competition right up there now.
Yeah, obviously it was the first round since I can remember. Certainly the TCR, there was in every round there was a FCR car that had won a race in every round, and I do believe there's an FCR car on every podium as well. Last season as well. But yeah, certainly round 1, no FCR winner. And has to be said, hopefully Thomas Paul can stick around this time. Obviously, last year in season 1 of TCR, he did contest round 1, but we didn't see him after that. But hopefully we can see him contest all rounds and make it really, really interesting, because I reckon between obviously himself, you, Foley, Dwayne Davies, and even Nether, it will make for a very interesting championship fight.
Yeah, well, Dwayne really impressed me in race 2. He had outright pace over just about everybody there. But Thomas Paul, hopefully he can stick around, because he's one of those drivers that he's not too familiar with in the AMSOZ group yet, but hopefully he can come up the ranks and start to challenge for a couple more wins throughout that season.
Certainly good to see, and yeah, Dwayne certainly did show a lot of pace last season, but it was just the consistency, and he'd always have in every round, like he'd have pace and he'd win a race or two, but the other race in that round, he'd end up just having an absolute nightmare and just not making a really good round of it. While obviously starting the campaign in round 1, I believe he's on the podium in every single race. I think he was a second, and then race 2 he was first, and then third for the final race as well. He didn't put a foot wrong pretty much all night long, and looking like he's going to be quite a difficult man to beat, because as we saw last season, he's able to put it on pole position and put it together in the qualifying format. It's just about the racing for him, and if he can sort that out, it might make it difficult for obviously you guys in FCR and Thomas Paul to obviously chase him in the championship.
Yeah, well, the scariest thing was, it was the happiest I've heard him in a race car. He was pretty much happy all night with how things were going. More so because Foley wasn't winning, but yeah, it looks like he's going to have a good season. He's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, so certainly looking forward to that one. That's coming up on Tuesday. I'm just trying to actually remember what circuit that is at. So round 2 of TCR on Tuesday is from Bolger Raceway, and obviously that's a circuit that hasn't been raced in any of the either TCC or TCR series before, so it will be interesting to see how you drivers obviously tackle front wheel drive cars around Barbagallo. That front left tyre is going to cop an absolute battering, and it's going to be key to make that tyre last.
Yeah, I didn't consider that until now, but it's going to be a pressure cooker. So that's something I'm probably going to have to work on before that round. Because Barbagallo is a favourite of, I know, at least mine and Foley's. So we're definitely going to want to show up there and have a good showing.
Certainly. But got about 3 more minutes of the warm-up to go. Got 8 people watching on the stream, so I do appreciate you guys sticking around. Obviously not the biggest field tonight in Super 2, but we have seen some fantastic racing, particularly in the second race there, where Bolger was the immovable object right up until the end. Had Rhodey there difficult to pass early on, and currently topping the timesheets in warm. Obviously only he and BDS have done laps so far. BDS out on the circuit at the moment, and he's up on Rhodey by a few tenths. But I reckon this third race, I really can't pick a winner, which for the first time this season, I can honestly say that, because I always thought with Vi Mitch in the race that he was obviously just had that pace advantage, that he'd come through the field and take it. But this final race here, I genuinely don't know, because we've got BDS, who's improving with every lap that he's done. We've got Nether out there, obviously race 1 winner. We've got Steve Brko out there, he's got pace. We've got obviously Liam out there, winner of race 2. And then obviously you just never know what could happen out there. So we've got genuinely pretty much all cars could take a win here if they just put it all together and a little bit of luck falls their way.
Yeah, I think BDS, he looked like he was gaining a bit of speed in race 2 there, so he could be at least my favourite, that I think he probably could be on for a win here.
We do have, I reckon we've got a little bit of a rivalry. Obviously, there was a little bit of contact between obviously BDS and Nether in that race towards the end. And in the chat there, we see have Brute on Discord sort of trying to stoke the fire just a little bit with a bit of, obviously helmets off NASCAR style punch on. So could see a little bit of a rivalry. See Nether, not a difficult man to pass, and BDS didn't make it easy for Nether. So we could see a little biff and barge between the two Ford drivers out there. There's BDS 51.4 now in practice, so he's looking quite good, trying to get dialed in. Obviously, he joined midway through qualifying, and that was the first time he did a lap, was his first out lap in qualifying of the circuit. So he's done quite alright for a driver that hasn't driven this track probably in about 12 months, I'd say.
Yeah, you being part of his team ownership with the loose Sim Sports and Supercars, how have you found him as a driver? Is he fairly easy to set up a car for?
Well, personally, I've sort of let those guys sort of set the their cars up, because I do try and, like, if they do need a hand with a direction of setup, or things they may need to change, I'll give them a hand with that. But I try to let those guys sort of work out their setups, because in the end, each individual driver prefers different things in their race cars. Like, I know in my setups, I'll hand it to someone and they can't drive it. Yeah. I know I sent my setup to Mike for Mike Coulston on GD3s, and he wasn't too happy with it in the race, because I ran without traction control in the settings, because it helped me turn, and he just loaded it up 10 minutes before, I think, qualifying, or even in qualifying, and he didn't properly test it, and it was a bit too taily for him, as he unfortunately found out in the race. So I prefer to let those guys sort of work out their own setup, but if they need a hand with anything, I go through it. But certainly with, like, in terms of sort of getting through a race and strategy wise, I help them as much as I can, because I know that's a weak point of a lot of drivers, where setup can be something really personal.
Yeah, well, I know when him and Mitch Hathaway come onto the scene, they were instantly fast. They were always up there in the top 5 or 6 cars, and they really haven't lacked off in that now with being part of the SimSport HCS team.
Yeah, and I think Albert Park, I think, is going to be a little bit of a turning point. I think because obviously Adelaide was a little bit of an unknown, and we had obviously everybody was sort of separate in Discord for that one. But if everybody was together for Albert Park, and it sort of brought everybody together, and were able to sort of sort things out, and everybody did. For the most part, everybody did a really good job. Unfortunately, there's just a couple of little minor mistakes everybody made. Obviously, Billy cut the track one too many times, which unfortunately ruined what would have been a really, really good result for Team HDS there in the second race. And then, unfortunately, Mitch just running a little bit wide in the first race, and he would have been a comfortable P4 in the end. But things certainly looking pretty good, and the team is starting just to come together a little bit after a little bit of a quiet start at Adelaide.
That's good.
Alright, well, we are away for the formation lap, Rossi, for the final race of the evening. Only 7 cars for this final one, unfortunately, but I do reckon it's going to be a cracker. Lead us away.
Yeah, well, sadly we have lost line Mitch for race 3, but 7 cars, it's still enough to hold a race. So on pole position we have got, it's either Wayne or Liam at the moment, but they are driving the Monster Energy FGX Falcon. BDS is in 2nd place in the Mega Fuels entry. Nether in the Tigford Racing Super Cheap Auto Falcon. Steve Brko, the first of the Commodores, in 4th position. Steve Bolger, if he can hold out like he did in the second race there, he might be able to grab out a few positions. Brody, hopefully he can build on what was a good start to race 2 and come up a few positions, and Tomo should be definitely looking like coming up in 7th position starting.
Yeah, he'll be hoping not to spin it at the hairpin this time around.
You wouldn't want to go 3 for 3.
Certainly. Well, they've actually got 3 forwards heading the field, which is a bit different, because generally it's been HRT 1 and 2, or an HRT starting from the front of the grid, except in the reverse grid races. But certainly a little bit different to see. Haven't seen that in the Supercar Championship, so it is quite weird seeing so many forwards up the front. But certainly good to see different drivers up there. Alright, drivers are now formed up, and we await the lights. 1 lights, 2, 3 lights, 4 lights. And we are green. Looks like Nether got a pretty good start, but he's got nowhere to go. Termo's got a good start in the background. BDS and Nether side by side into turn 1, but BDS will hold on. And I don't think Liam's had a decent run. BDS has had a good run out of turn 1. Brko putting Nether under pressure. Liam going defensive into the hairpin. BDS going to try and go around the outside like he did in race 1. And he's not quite going to do it, but it's going to be dragged now to the penultimate corner in the background. Got Nether under pressure from Brko, and I reckon Burko's close enough to make a move. And also got the 2 Techno Autosports cars very close together. And we've got Spencer, sorry, not Spencer, but we've got Liam and BDS side by side as well. And contact between the two. Around goes Liam, unfortunately. And BDS, he's going to lose out to Nether. They're going to go side by side into turn 1, but BDS just chopping the nose in of Liam, and unfortunately Liam to the back of the pack, but he's not too far away, only 5 seconds away, and with a bit of luck he can still get to the front of the pack as BDS is under attack from both Brko and Nether.
Yeah, well, Nether just showing showing a little bit of a move there, showing what he's got, but tucks back into second there.
Oh, and BDS has ran wide, and that's allowed Nether to get through. And BDS wants a bit of that slipstream, so he's blocked that off from Brko, and Brko now looking to make a move. And Burko's going to have to slipstream of Nether if he pulls out. No, he's tucked back in. BDS having a look up the inside, partly defensive, partly offensive, into the lead. Once again goes BDS. Can he hold on? He's got Nether having a look up the inside. Burko's had to balk a little bit. Turbo's had a fantastic start. He's right behind these guys. And it's going to be a 4-car battle pack in no time at this rate.
Steve Becker there nearly lost it into turn 1. He was holding on there for all his might.
He's had a decent exit though, and he's right behind Nether.
Shows it.
And
He's up this inside and he's made the move.
he's sending it a little bit of a lock-up. Nether's going to try and get him on the switchback. Nether has got that slightly better exit, but isn't able to get the overlap. So the field is very tightly compacted, as you can see, all within the frame. And Nether within striking distance. Brko's got that slipstream and is closing in on BDS. He's not letting the Mega Fuels car get away.
No, he's not quite getting away. So, yeah, Steve Becker looks like he's got a good run and might be able to fight if he gets these first few corners right into the hairpin.
And immediately in the 51s for the front runners. As Wayne fastest up of the race. BDS is wide. They're going to go side by side. Brko and BDS. Nether will take a little chunk of that as well. BDS to the inside. Brko to the outside. Nether will have Brko's slipstream. And Brko will hold on. And BDS goes defensive. Nether again. He's going to try the old switcheroo, which he does. Gets a decent exit. Turmo's right there as well. Looks like Rody having a look at Bolger in the background. BDS and Nether side by side once again, as they were in race 2, and now once again in race 3.
Yeah, so carrying on their battles, but they both go deep into there, but yeah, BDS holds out there for second.
Yeah, I thought Nether was just going to send it, but obviously not wanting to just lose too much time, because they don't want to lose too much time to Brko in front. There is a little bit of a gap between the two. They are just still within slipstream range. But they probably don't want to see a repeat of what happened in race 2 there, where all the battling let Liam get away.
Yeah, well, they're all just single file at the moment, so nothing too much happening there. So,
Oh, and up the back there, looks like got Liam and Rody starting to duke it out. So Liam has caught the back of the pack. Rody's done a good job sticking with Bolger, but hasn't been close enough to make a move. I reckon we might see Liam make a move here at the penultimate corner. No, not quite close enough. Rody very late on the brakes, and that's going to give Liam a decent run. At the final corner, he's up the inside. Brko, fastest lap of the race, so he's doing what he has to try and break away from BDS in second. And a nice little battle forming here for P5, and we've also got BDS under massive attack from Nether right behind, with Turbo keeping a watchful eye.
yeah, well, BDS just holding it up the inside. Nether went deep into that corner, but he
And up
has
the inside goes Turbo, but Turbo won't have the slipstream. BDS will have Nether's slipstream, and we have seen in the background Liam getting by Rody. Now, did Rody run wide? Let's have a look on the replay. Or did he just outbrake himself? Yes, he outbroke himself and almost speared into the back of Bolger. That would have been a massive incident. He did clip the wall, did Rody. But he's just got to gather himself now, because he's a couple of seconds off the back of the pack. But with all the battling going on, he can catch them back up if he just puts some nice laps together.
BDS just locked the brakes up into the penultimate corner there.
Oh, we've got Bolger off as well in turn 1. Sorry to cut you off there. And that's allowed Liam back up into P5, and now he's going to close in on this pack.
Yeah, not good there for Bolger, sadly.
So just cutting back to the replay. Yeah, BDS almost spearing into the back of Nether at the penultimate corner, and that allowed Turbo to get by. And BDS now coming under threat as there's a Monster Energy Falcon in his mirrors, and a little bit of a gap now between himself and Turbo. Turbo putting Nether Element under pressure, while Brko 1.5 second lead, and driving nicely. 51.7 for him, 51.7 for Nether, and a 51.2 for Turbo. So I do believe that's his personal best of the race weekend. Turbo having a crack and not letting these front two get away.
No, so he could be on for a his first win here if he can pass Nether fairly early and get to the back of Steve Brko fairly quickly. And hopefully that'll get his season underway, because he definitely needs a good result.
Yeah, he certainly had a rough start to the season, but perhaps even if he just sticks with Nether and just works with him for a few laps just to sort of close in on Brko in front, and then bide his time and pick the right time to make his move to get by Nether, and then hopefully for him into the lead of the race. But Nether still has to catch onto the back of Brko. Brko 51.5 on that lap. 51.3 for Nether, his personal best of the race so far. So gap down to a second between first and second, and half a second separating second and third. And BDS and Liam separated, well, over the start-finish line. It was like less than a tenth of a second. So obviously those two been duking it out over the last lap. And BDS wide at the hairpin, and it's going to be a drag now to the penultimate corner.
Yeah, well, now with Liam in his draft here, he might be able to put it up the inside heading into the penultimate corner and start to catch back up to Termo.
He's not making it easy. He's parked it in the middle of the road now. To the inside goes BDS, and as we've seen, he's very, very committed and late on the brakes. And once again, very late and committed on the brakes, and he's just going to hold on. Liam trying to get him on the switchback. But so these two, with their battling, not helping their chances in catching Termo and Nether up in front.
No, it looks like Steve Becker's just eked that gap out a little bit more, so just making it a little bit more difficult for Nether and Termo to catch back up.
Well, we've got another move taking place. Liam very late on the brakes. BDS tried to get him on the switchback, but a little bit of contact, but no major, obviously, damage. And that means Liam now up into P4. Now BDS just has to focus a little bit, try and stick with Liam, and hopefully catch up to the back of Termo if you could just keep it nice and smooth. And now they're back into the 51.4s. Yeah, 2 laps ago, or sorry, on the previous lap. No, it wasn't the previous lap. It was 2 laps ago, yeah. Brko did extend the lead from 1 second to 1.5 seconds once again. So I think Nether perhaps made a slight mistake. So we didn't see a new fastest lap pop up on our screen. So I think it was just more of a mistake on the second place man. And we've actually seen Termo sort of drop off the back of Nether as well. So the pace has certainly ramped up, and the consistency just not quite there for Termo. And that sees him sort of falling away from Nether, and he's going to start falling into the clutches of Liam and BDS if he doesn't start finding a little bit of extra pace and consistency here.
Yeah, well, I cut to Termo between the turn 2, turn 3 section before, and he had a little bit of a tank slapper there, which sort of put him back a little bit, but it just looks like he's sort of lost a little bit of his ways. He's not doing too bad, but just starting to lose that little bit of consistency.
You did see Nether there at turn 1. He was holding on for dear life, locked the brake, and had to smash over the curb on the inside. Did bring the gap down to I think it was 1.2 seconds before the first split there, but then lost half a second due to that lockup, and obviously subsequently lost time on the exit. So he's going to make that time up once again, or just hope for a mistake from Brko to close that gap up once again. But we could see a third, different winner of the night. Obviously Brko did win a race last time out, as he got Termo wide of penultimate corner. That will allow obviously Netherellian to get away, and it will allow Liam to close in, and that spot on the final step of the podium is going to get mighty juicy with 4 laps to go.
Yeah, well, Termo there's just inviting
Oh,
Liam.
he's got slideways again out of turn 2-3 area.
Just caught it.
And I think he's lucky that the barrier was actually so close there, and it sort of just pushed him along and straightened his car out. If it was a little bit further away from the barrier there, he would have been around.
Yeah, well, I was just saying he was inviting Liam to catch back up to him, but he's definitely offered it to him there now, with Liam closely up to the back of him.
Oh, it's not just offered now, he's just shoved it in his face and told him to eat it. That gap is, well, it was a few seconds, it's now nothing after a couple errors, and again, very, very awkward line to the penultimate corner, and Wayne is right there. I think BDS in the background made a mistake, because this dropped a lot of time, as Termo goes defensive into turn 1. Liam tries to go around the outside at turn 1, not going to do it there. He's had a decent run out of turn 2. And Termo not really fighting Liam. And up the inside goes Liam into the hairpin. And Liam pulls it up. Termo's going to try and get him on the switchback. Won't get him on the switchback, but he will have the slipstream. He's got to pull in because there is no overlap, and he does. And now he's giving himself every opportunity to get a job done into the penultimate corner, get himself back onto the podium.
He got a better run out of the hairpin there, but just didn't stick within that slipstream because he could have been alongside him here.
And Liam a little bit wide there. Penultimate corner. Turmo not quite taking advantage. Brko out in front is sort of extending his lead. And looking quite comfortable. And Turmo sticking with Liam at the moment, still in his slipstream. On the brakes early into the hairpin, but not obviously using the brakes quite as hard. Had a look up the inside as we right on board with Turmo. Up around the outside goes Liam, uses the banking and had a slightly better exit now. The slipstream in effect for Turmo. He's not going to be close enough to make a move. His best bet is to get a good run through these last two corners and set something up once again for the hairpin.
Now, I don't know whether BDS has made a mistake, but Rody's just passed him and he's been on the back of him for the last lap as I've watched him. And, well, BDS is slowing up here, actually.
Oh, they were battling. Let's just go have a look and see on the replay.
He's come to a complete stop on the main straight now. And
he's out. So what has happened?
That might be a fuel issue.
He is out of fuel. He is out of fuel. So that's another driver. Once again, out of fuel. It's 17 laps at Symmons Plains, guys. You should not be running out of fuel. It is I think it's 1 times tyre, 2 times fuel. But if we can get 13 laps at Albert Park, which is 5.4, I think 5.4 kilometres long, and you can get 13 laps in a tank around there, you can certainly get at least 25 laps out of a tank around here. But once again, another driver has run out of fuel. And, well, I did hope that Rody was going to pick up a top 5. Obviously, he hasn't quite stuck with those front runners, but he's still not too far away from Turmo, only 5 seconds adrift. And he's in 5th position ahead of Bolger and, of course, BDS, who has retired. So looking good at the moment for a top 5. Brko looking quite handy for a victory here. Only couple corners remaining, 2.1 seconds in front of Nether, he's just stretched away as the race has gone on, been a little bit more consistent, and he will take HRT's second victory. No, it'll be their first victory of the evening, and his second win of the season. Nether taking another podium position, continuing his strong championship charge. Liam rounding out a solid evening and debut night for him, finishing in 3rd place. Turmo finishing in 4th. Couldn't quite hold on to a podium position in the end. Those last couple mistakes with a few laps to go costing him, and he's just parked it in the middle of the road with Turmo. Sorry, not Turmo, with Rody. Almost T-boning him and avoiding him and having a massive accident down the straight, as Turmo just setting himself up to once again go around in reverse. Rody, top 5. Nice result from him. Only 14 seconds off the lead in the end. And he showed some quite encouraging signs of pace. It's just the consistency now that he's got to sort out. But looking good. And Bolger, the last of the finishers, didn't quite have the same run that he had in race 2. But still some solid points for him. And BDS running out of fuel with a lap to go. So second drive, obviously Lime Mitch running out of fuel in race 1, and BDS in the final race running out of fuel, which is around here. I can't explain it, Rossi. It's 17 laps at Symmons Plains. You could just put a Coke can of fuel in and it's going to make 17 laps. But these guys obviously putting teaspoons in.
Yeah, well, the only thing I can think of is as the service reset, they've just gone off from what the server's saying is 17 laps, and we know this game reads it as if you can do 5 laps, it'll give you your fuel count there. So I just dare say drivers will put in what the game said without actually doing any forethought to it and doing what they've done in previous races.
Yeah, it is a weird one. Obviously, BDS did finish. He did finish race 2. So you would have thought, okay, we'll just use the same amount of fuel from that one, but to no avail. And him retiring from that one. But he certainly did make it very, very entertaining with, never say die attitude and very, very hard racing out there. But just an unfortunate DNF in the end. But certainly a very fun night of racing. 3 different winners, which is fantastic to see, Rossi.
Yeah, so 3 from 3 for tonight. Definitely good to have a bit of a change up tonight, and Symmons Plains showed it up again with some very close racing between multiple drivers.
It certainly did. And hopefully the actual supercar, obviously AMSOZ Supercar event, can throw up some new winners as well. Obviously, it will be very interesting to see how a number of the drivers fare. Obviously, lap time is not going to be as much of an issue, and I reckon strategy in the supercar event around here is going to be vital.
Yes, it's going to be especially vital with hopefully we get a good amount of drivers turn up for that supercars event, and because that'll throw in a bit of a mix with different drivers' speed abilities and the tightness of this track.
Certainly will, and it's not going to be an easy track to pass, as we obviously saw this evening, but it also is a place for some very spectacular passes as well.
So, yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those races to watch when it comes up.
It certainly is. Well, we've got one of our drivers, we've got Nether here in obviously the broadcast booth. We might get to a couple of other drivers, we might drag them up a bit later after we interview, obviously, Nether. Nether, fairly solid was the evening for you, with obviously a good podium position there in race 2. I do believe you picked up a race win there as well in race 1. They're picking up your first victory there. So solid effort. Obviously, Lion Mitch was in front of you and did run out of fuel, but still, you put the pressure on and got the job done.
Yeah, it's good to have the first win finally under my belt, and I guess we alluded to it last round as well. Hopefully it was going to go one step further. Well, we got a second and a first tonight, which was good. Didn't quite know what had happened to Lime Mitch. It just all of a sudden he pulled over to the side and then DNF'd in the middle of it. I wasn't sure if he would underfueled or if he'd had some sort of a problem, because I thought, well, it's still quite a few laps to go. It was a bit curious that he didn't sort of he ran out of fuel sort of 3 laps to go type thing. It's not something you're sort of accustomed to. Normally they're a lap short, not 3 laps short, which was, now that you've told me, is quite a surprise actually. I'm pretty happy I was actually able to hang with him for a lot of that first race. I actually made a couple of minor adjustments from qualifying to set up the car for the race in race 1, and it just made allowing me to follow the car ahead a little bit better, and actually allowed me to punch out some more consistent times during the night. But the problem was on a couple of occasions making a few mistakes, and around a place like Symmons Plains, there's not a lot of opportunity to make that time back. Once you make a mistake, the time is gone.
Yeah, we did see that with a number of drivers where, you'd lose a little bit of time and you just can't get it back because, well, the lap's only 2.4 kilometres, 51, 50, 51, 52 seconds. There's no places to sort of make that up. And, yeah, obviously that first race, you're right there. You didn't make a mistake. And pushing Lime Mitch so hard, he couldn't really save fuel, and you're able to take home a very well-deserved first win. So well done. But obviously the second race there, you and Billy had a bit of a ding-dong battle there, a bit of biff, bit of barge, and in the end couldn't quite get the best of him there though.
No, not in the second race. I probably made it a bit more difficult for myself by just going a little bit too deep into turn 6 on about the 3rd or 4th lap from memory, and had to tour the grass. That put me back to 7th, and that probably resulted in me ending up in that battle to begin with. Looking to go up the inside, I think, of one of the Holdens down at turn 6, and then got a bit of a love tap from behind, and was on for a little bit there. I know that a few guys say I'm a bit of a difficult man to pass sometimes. Well, Billy's kind of the same. He's a lot later on the brakes, a lot more confident on the brakes into some of the corners around here, and in race 2 and in race 3, had to sort of have wits about me for a little while and, pull the old over and under trick at the hairpin and, just pick and choose and time your attack properly at a place like this.
Well, there's almost like there was 3 of, obviously you have built up this reputation, as you say, of being this man very, very difficult to pass, and in race 2 there, I think we had Steve Bolger sort of add to that list, and obviously, as you said, Billy adding to that list. So there's 3 of you out there, obviously making it very, very difficult to pass one another. But obviously, you did catch up to the back of, I think it was Bolger and Lion Mitch battling there as well, which I think you did allude to there. but it made it difficult when you had obviously guys in front of you sort of battling, where you had to keep an eye on, and then obviously you had BDS who was very, very aggressive behind you as well.
Correct. And the narrow elements of the track don't sort of do it, I guess, too much justice on the screen, just how difficult it is to keep your wits about you when there's really only a track that's not that much wider than 2 cars wide. And you've got to pay attention to that. You've got to pay attention to what's beside you, what's behind you, and what's in front of you, because for quite a lot of the races tonight, especially in the early going, everybody was very closely packed together. So one mistake from anybody and it could have been game over for 2 or 3 cars. So it's a very, very difficult track, not just in the passing game and in making sure you can keep your lap time up, but just having spatial awareness is probably this track's probably right up there on the calendar.
Yeah, it certainly is. And then obviously that final race there, you put a nice run together, but in the end you just couldn't quite keep up with Steve Brko there. Did you make some more setup changes for that final race, or is it just a case of you just didn't quite have that extra bit of pace to sort of stick with Steve there?
Now, kept the setup the way that it was. A couple of mistakes is what crept in, and predominantly at turn 1-2, which is probably the trickiest part of the circuit to get right. And it's a game. This circuit's a game of tenths. You make gains in tenths or half of tenths. You don't make gains in a huge amount of time in race trim. But I would gain on, if I was maintaining my pace, I was gaining on Steve maybe a tenth and a little bit a lap. But then if you make a mistake into something like turns 1 and 2 and you lose 4 tenths, well, you've just undone all that work. And as I said before, there's just very, very little opportunity to get it back. And I made too many of those in that race, and you pay the penalty for it. It's pretty simple.
Well, in the end, though, still a very successful night, and I do believe after all the results from this evening, obviously Brko did have a finish of P5 there in race 2. I do believe that would probably elevate you to, if not the championship lead, certainly very, very close to Steve Brko after obviously Lime Mitch missing the final race and obviously DNFing, running out of fuel in the first one. So you're putting together quite a nice little championship charge at the moment.
Thank you. It's actually a bit of a shock. I knew it would have been a bit close up the front, especially with the Holden boys taking most of the wins in the early going. But yeah, tonight's a little bit of a different beast. I haven't done the math, but if it is the case, well, I've got something to look forward to next time out, don't I?
You certainly do. Well done on a fairly successful evening, and we'll catch you obviously with obviously TCR next week, and then in a couple of weeks' time with Super 2 from, I do believe, from Pukekohe off the top of my head. Oh no, Barbagallo, I should say. I think it is. Barbagallo Pukekohe in a couple of weeks' time.
Catch you then. Thanks, mate.
Alright, Rossi, who have you got for us?
I have got every Bob, Dick and Dairy.
Well, mate, because you've dragged them all in here, you can lead us away with...
Race 2. I'm thinking we would go to Mowering, so I wonder if we can confirm who it actually was driving in race 2 there, Mr. Wayne or Liam.
That was me, in fact, Liam.
In fact, Liam, well, welcome to AMSOZ, Liam. You drove a splendid race pretty much all night, actually. How'd you see race 2 there go for you?
Yeah, it was very nice out the front. Just got my own race and everyone had a few accidents, what let me get a bit of a gap and finally make a mistake at the end and just have enough brake to get it over the line on that one.
Yeah, well, you built up a pretty good lead there. So you, like you said, you were lucky there when you come up to your little incident there, which sort of held you back a little bit. But yeah, you put in a pretty solid performance there to build that lead and get your first win pretty much within your first round of AMSOZ. So well done.
Yeah, thank you very much.
But then also just going on to race 3 there, you were starting off pole there and had a little bit of contact there with Billy. How'd you see that one?
Yeah, I was just trying to get the lead because I knew how helpful it was in the last race, but it was a bit gutsy on my half and I just over-braked myself and just went straight off.
Oh, that's all right. I can't remember where you actually finished there. It might have been 3rd or 4th, so that's a pretty good showing there for race 3 there also.
Yeah, thank you.
And I believe we do have Steve Becker here for winning race 3 there. So how'd you see that one go there, Steve?
Yeah, it wasn't probably wasn't my best effort, but a couple of the guys made a few mistakes up front, and it kind of opened the doors a little bit. And as soon as I got ahead, I just calmed my nerves and didn't make a single foot wrong.
No, that's probably one of your best performances there too. Actually, to not put a foot wrong pretty much all race 3 there, and just stormed away for your second win of the season, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Really happy with that, and I'm happy with the first race as well. Second race, that's racing. What happened in that second race?
Yeah, race 2 was a bit of a cluster fudge with most drivers getting pretty in close contact with each other there, but it was good racing all around. But hopefully leading on into, I think it's round 4, you're pretty much up there with Nether at the top of the table, so you could be on for a bit of a championship hunt with Nether in the coming rounds.
Looking forward to the challenge. Always up for it, and I'm looking forward to the next race because it's one of my favourite circuits.
Oh well, hopefully good luck for the rest of the season, and yeah, thanks for showing up tonight.
Thank you very much.
I believe that's all I've got, Lewis.
Well, we do have Rhodey in here. Might as well ask Rhodey. Obviously, we did have a little bit of obviously TV time for Rhodey. Obviously, you're not in here very often when you're obviously racing. But tonight certainly much improved. All that has to be said, really, you had the pace. It's just there's a couple little mistakes sort of dropped off at the back, but still a top 5 in that final race, and you weren't too far off the back of obviously Termo and that sort of the battle in front of you as well.
Yeah, after what I felt like was an adequate amount of practice time for yesterday with the supercars, to then come that far off the back of the pack, I was not settling for that tonight. So first step was straight to the PBF Discord to get the setup from last year, which these being last year's cars, it dropped straight over. And I actually didn't race here last year. This was the first round that my PC gave up. So I have great memories of sitting on the sideline as Boki and Foley threatened to take each other out on the last lap, going too wide into the last corner, which killed all my nerves. No, I'm much happy with how I went tonight. Couple little mistakes. Yeah, I was taking a different line. I was trying a couple of different lines through the hairpin, sort of the regular line where you sort of constant radius it, and then a different line where I go a little past the hairpin and then duck down in through it, late apex, and to straightens the corner out. It just is a bit more of a workout on used tyres. But both those times, I tried that when I was behind someone, and they were braking a bit sooner than I was. That's what caused the contact. Didn't get an ideal chance to redress with Billy in the second race, and I'm not happy with that. No, pace-wise, I'm happy with that, and I'd like to be able to do that again in the next couple of rounds. It feels much better than yesterday to actually be competitive and, actually be able to see the cars in front of you.
Well, it's certainly actually quite refreshing because obviously that reverse grid race there, you actually held your own there, obviously leading the first couple of laps, and you're certainly in a podium position very early on. So pace is encouraging. What things do you think you can work on in terms of your consistency, and what were the sort of the bigger errors that you sort of found? Obviously, you're not quite used to battling other cars, but you certainly had quite a lot of that this evening. What are some things you can sort of work on going forward?
I think, honestly, I might need to look at... It definitely... the pace is an issue. That's a harder one to nut down and sort out, aside from just not being as good. Being around other cars, I just need more practice with that, and I need to maybe be a little less polite. I've already been working on that. I got told off from, I think it was... Foley last year in TCR that I was too polite in letting people past, or in letting him past in that case. But I want to keep the seat in supercars and all that. But look, I put up a bit of fight where it's not. I can remember a couple of times I went too wide through. I think it was turn 5. I think I was with Billy just before I ran out of fuel. I think around the cars I just need to maybe push a little harder to defend my position. There's still a balance between me because I am susceptible through lack of experience and just not having necessarily the right head at some occasions for doing things like standing at the back of someone or I had issues last season with a couple of series of just placing the car in the wrong spot. But yeah, I think round other cars, I just need to be maybe a little bit more defensive in my position. But I don't want to be causing more accidents either.
Fair enough. Well, still top 5 in that final race, and certainly a very, very good result pace-wise for you. So hopefully you can see you obviously taking this pace into the main series race coming up, obviously in a few weeks' time, and hopefully you can carry the pace throughout the rest of the Super 2 and Supercar season. Good luck.
Hopefully. Thanks, Lewis.
All right. Well, we've got Billy in here, so we might as well ask him a couple of questions because he certainly did have a very, very eventful evening. Well, Billy, obviously you couldn't quite get the mod working up until qualifying, and your first lap was in qualifying. How'd you find having to obviously relearn the track and also try and set a competitive lap time?
Yeah, no, it was pretty interesting. I got in last 10 minutes and just blistered out a lap and tried to work out a setup from there. And yeah, no, I just went straight at it. I thought first race I'll just go a little bit easy, and then after that I let out my Paul Morris and went at him.
Well, you certainly did let out quite a bit of a Paul Morris because you're certainly very, very aggressive under braking, both attacking and defending. And I think sort of race 2 sort of is a perfect example of that. Would you talk us through obviously that battle you had between yourself and Nether there, because it was sort of titanic struggle, and both of you very late on the brakes, both of you not wanting to let each other pass, but in the end a bit of biff and barge, and you just were able to hold on for a podium position in the end there.
Oh, which race was that? I think we'll fight in every race.
Well, it was every race, but also race 2 there.
Race 2, yeah. I don't know. He's pretty good on the brakes, and he won't give up a position pretty easy. So I don't know. I just had to stick to my guns and give it all. Yeah, no, he's a good racer. I didn't expect it from him because I seen him in the commentary in what is it?
Supercars.
Supercars, yeah. But yeah, didn't expect it from him, and he was giving me some good argy-bargy. It was good fun. Loving it.
Well, do you think the argy-bargy is going to turn into a NASCAR-style sort of punch-on like was alluded in Discord earlier, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more cordial and nice?
Who knows? I was having a great time, so fingers crossed he keeps to his guns and gives me another go.
All right, well, a very entertaining evening from you, and obviously Nether as well, and for, the entire Super 2 crew. Well done on obviously just making it to the grid after your issues and providing us with some good action on stream.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Cheers, Lewis.
All right, well, that just about does it from obviously Brendan Ross, myself, Automobilista Australia, and the Super 2 series. But just having a look around on Discord to see what is coming up in the coming weeks. I do believe on Tuesday, or next Tuesday, we have TCR, and that will be from Barbagallo Raceway. That's a circuit that TCC or TCR both have never raced there before, and as was alluded to in the warm-up prior to race 3. That's going to be a very, very interesting proposition for the drivers. Got TDC, Track Day Cup, Brendan Ross's series on Monday. So if you're sort of new to sort of sim racing or just racing in general and just want a fun little series just to just plop yourself in and just have a bit of fun and a nice relaxed attitude, I think that is the way to go on Monday night. Also on in a couple of weeks' time, we have on Wednesday we have the TCAC. That's another really entry-level and just fun series with enjoyable and easy cars to drive and a good community. And also, not the coming Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, we have GT3, and that is at the... I'm just trying to remember the name of the Circuito Cristo Stosse or something like that. I can't remember.
Circuito do Cristais. It's the Cervelo A in-game.
Yes, the Cervelo A circuit in Brazil. Now, that has been raced at, I do believe, I think TCAC may have raced it, but also TCC ran it. And I do remember the comments when I did select that in TCC, and everybody except for one or two people absolutely hated it. Just to obviously remind people out there, it was not my choice. It was not my choice, but I do approve just to annoy a lot of people out there because it is a very difficult track. And for GT cars, it's going to be very, very interesting, and it certainly will throw up some curveballs. Supercars, I can't remember. I don't know exactly when that's coming up the next round, but it will be a fair ways off. Let me just go through supercars. But obviously we had the Albert Park round last night with some fantastic racing up and down the field. The first race had an epic three-way battle, and in the second one, obviously, Stenberg ran away with it, but certainly in the midfield, and the battle for the final spot on the podium was very, very hotly contested. So the next supercar round is from Symmons Plains, or Brian Walsh Raceway, on April 9th. So, yeah, just under a month away. Anyway, from Brendan Ross and myself, hope you've enjoyed the Super 2 broadcast here from Brian Walsh Raceway. You'll see me or hear me on Tuesday night from TCR, and you'll see Super 2 in a couple weeks' time. Have a good one.